Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. So here we are, a special episode of Life, Lessons, and Laughter.
Very special episode.
It's called The Interview.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. The
Dun,
interview
dun, dun.
about the book.
Okay, so
yes.
this is the part where you hand over the show to me.
Okay, here you are.
Thank you. All right, so for those of you who may not be in the know, Glenn, you recently finished writing your book.
I did.
Can you tell us the name of the book and when people can expect to be able to read it?
No, it's all a mystery, and I'm not saying anything. Short interview. The name of the book is Down to Earth, and the subtitle is The Spiritual Being's Guide to a Happy Human Experience. I think I got that right. Yes.
You did. You got it right. And the author is
Glenn Ambrose.
That's correct. Okay.
Yes.
Good. So you're also doing a crowdfunding campaign to sort of help support the publishing of the book. So before we get into sort of the interview about that, can you just tell us a little bit about the crowdfunding campaign, where people can find it? There will be a link in the description of this video below. But can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, the crowdfunding is, it's just such a cool platform out there that it's, of course, it's a nice way to fund the project. To get this thing published and a really nice product out there. So, of course, that's the foundation of it. And it's also a nice way to get people included in the process, which I really liked. My fans are such a big part of this that, there's really no reason to write it if I didn't have the fan base. So to get everybody involved in that is interested in spirituality and this type of work, and get everybody involved in really the birthing of this book and getting it born into the material world, and really out there so it can help more people and speed up the shift. So it feels like it's an inclusive project, where it's not just me doing it, but it's everybody coming together and getting this out there. So I like that. And one of the neat parts is I always like doing interesting little things, and, coming up with the perks is one of those things. It's allowed me to come up with unique ways to interact with the audience and for them to interact with me. So
yeah, for
cool.
Sure. And there's a lot of great perks, and there's a lot of great stuff on there that I've seen and that I talked to you about, and I'm excited to see a lot of them take place. So that's going to be really fun. What brought you to writing this book? Let's start at the beginning. Why are you writing a book, or why did you write this book? Because it's finished.
It's time, it's kind of the reason that I do everything for the most part. It just the time arrives, and like when the time arrives and the excuses kind of fall away and it bubbles up to the top and it captures my attention more and more. And it kind of gets to the point where it's like, it kind of feels like, Glenn, are you going to do this? Glenn. Hey, Glenn, and after a while, you're like, what? Oh, it's you again. I guess, I don't know. I guess, am I going to do this now? Am I going to do this now? That's kind of how my process goes. And it's, things just capture my attention and they're in my awareness. And when they start coming more and more up into my awareness, it's like it felt like 2019 was the time, and it became the time. Sure enough, So yeah, just I guess it's, to me, I like having something that's smarter than me dictating when this stuff happens. So I try to allow that to happen, and I think that's the case here, is that it's just something smarter than me said, hey, Glenn, it's time, start putting attention and effort towards this. And I did, and then it came together, and here we are publishing it. So that tells me that, like, I really love the feeling when I don't think it's all about me. It's humbling to think that this book wanted to be birthed into this world at this time through something that's more intelligent than I. It's humbling, and it gives me more confidence in it. If I just think I'm doing it, then all of a sudden my mind starts second guessing everything. But when it's just comfortable and it feels like it's the right time, then I know it's not about me. It's about this coming into the world, helping people.
That's awesome. That's that's a great reason to do anything. Unpack the title for us a little bit. So it's Down to Earth, the Spiritual Being's Guide to a Happy Human Experience. Tell us, the title and the subtitle definitely seem to go together. Can you tell us a little bit about, and Down to Earth, I think we can understand, but can you unpack the Spiritual Being's Guide to a Happy Human Experience? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a popular terminology. A lot of people in the spiritual circles have heard the concept of being a spiritual being having a human experience. So, that's one of the reasons why I chose it, because it's something that people can identify with. They've probably heard before. So hopefully it can, give them some kind of good insight as to what the book's about. And it's also foundational to how I feel about spirituality. I believe it's an integration of the spiritual aspect of ourselves, and integrating that with our human aspects of ourselves. And if we deny either one of those, we're heading in the wrong direction. So it's, I believe it's about being grounded in the safety and the love and the peace of our spiritual truth that's at our core. And then once we're grounded in that, then we have the stability, the strength, the love, the confidence, the security to start interacting with life in a more playful, enjoyable way, where it actually turns out to be a happy human experience instead of this torturous, winding road that it seems to be sometimes. So
one of the original, I believe, that I had, one of the original titles of the book didn't have, or the subtitles rather, no, it was the original title, I think, had The Spiritual Being's Guide to a Human Experience. Why was it important to you to make sure you put the word happy in there?
Yeah, it's, because, I don't, it's not about having a human experience. We're having that, but if it sucks, what fun is that? So we're all having a human experience, but the key is to have a happy one. I mean, what's the point? I think I don't think that there's any point in being here if it's going, if our journey is going to be a miserable one. I think happiness is our guidance system. And I think when we're experiencing a happy life, for the most part, we're gonna experience everything in here. We're gonna experience sadness, frustration, anger. We're going to have different experiences. But for the most part, our experience should be happy. And if it is, that's when we know that we're doing it right. That I'm happy when I'm in the flow and I'm doing it right. When I'm experiencing something other than happiness, it's me going against the flow of life. It's when I'm off, the flow is fine. It's just when I'm in alignment with it, it's a happy experience. When I'm not, It's not. So I think that, yeah, it's paramount. I mean, why bother? I mean, why, if you're not going to have fun doing it, like, why bother being here? Not that, not that I think exiting early is a good idea. I don't. I think we're supposed to be here. There's a very strong will for us to live. So if we just weren't having a happy time and we're supposed to just check out, I think it would be easier to do so. So I think the whole point of us is to really, it's important for us to be here and to integrate happiness and learn how to do it in a happy way. And as we do that, we're going, I think that's the whole point of us being here, is learning to integrate our spirituality into our humanness in a happy way.
At the start of the book, you talk about the framework of love and fear. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose to talk about the framework of love and fear at the beginning, and why and what is so important about those two things?
Yeah, I mean, love and fear. I'm all about the core. The deeper I can get to the core of things, the better, because once you have clarity on that piece at the bottom, or if you can shift it, then everything above it that comes off of it shifts. And that's what I love about spirituality. Like, why spend all your time trying to correct every little surface problem? Oh, I'm not happy at my job, I need to work on that. I'm not happy in my relationship, I need to work on that. Why not just go down to the core of everything, shift the core, and then your job gets better, your relationship gets better, your finances get better. So the deeper I can go, the more I like it. And, I was looking at, I knew that everything negative is a version of fear. I had heard that. And everything positive was a version of love. And I'm like, do I believe that? Yeah, I really do. And I was like, okay, cool. So everything is at the, I'm at the core now. One of another belief that plays into this is that if you want to get closer to the truth, you simplify. So I'm always trying to simplify and get further down. And I was like, okay, cool. So there's only two things. And as soon as I got to that point, I'm like, two? Well, can I get to one? That's just the way my mind works. So I was like, maybe I can get to one. Well, what, and I started looking at what is love and what is fear. And I'm like, love is foundational. What is fear? And I realized that fear was just an absence of love. So that fear wasn't actually a thing. It was just absence of a foundational thing, just like darkness is an absence of light. So that's when I was like, oh, okay, so this is really foundational. And sometimes you can, when you have clarity on that, like I was saying earlier, you can come to a lot of truths that are above it. And then sometimes if you have clarity on the foundation of everything, it helps you figure out how to shift things. So if you're dealing with some more surfacey type issues, but you don't know what to do, you can get down to the core and you just be like, okay, am I functioning from a place of love or from a place of fear? Well, it's fear. Okay, well, what's that? Absence of love. So how can I bring love into the situation? And going through that, you can work your way through a lot of different issues. So I think it's just really important to get down to the most foundational teaching possible and working our way back into our lives from there. Start right at the core and then work back. And instead of trying to work in all the different symptoms that are in our life and trying to figure them all out, why don't we just start at the bottom where the truth is, and then work our way back and see how it manifests into our experiences. So that I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you. So in the book, actually on the back of the book, you talk about the evolution of being in the 3 stages, which are, we're here alive, learning to survive. We develop structures. It's do what you're told. it's the do what you're told era. I like that. And then, you break down the long-standing structures and an awakening is occurring. Uh, why simple? Well, you just said you like to simplify. Uh, what made you think about the 3 stages of opening to joy?
Well, I just think and that might be on the back of the book, might not. We don't know.
Okay.
Because, it's might replace it as we're still working on stuff. So this is all kind of up in the air. But
it's a great thing that's a theme throughout the book as well.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just it's the concept, like why this book is even being birthed into this world at this time, and I think that it's because we're in the middle of a spiritual shift. I believe that there were different stages, and I did try to oversimplify it to kind of fit it on the back of a book. The idea is, we came into this world and we needed to figure out the world around us and how to survive in it. And that took time, like possibly millions of years. I mean, so, we're here and we're just trying to survive. We're trying to harness energy. Like, how can we like feed everybody that's around us in our, in our tribe, and and then we develop farming and all that stuff. And it's like, so, I mean, there's this whole level of just of development that we've gone through that was in depth, that took us a very long time. And then, we kind of, and like I said, I oversimplified this, but then there's another stage where there's tons of structure. Once we figured out kind of what worked and how to harness energy, and we needed to form societies. So we did, and we started having larger groups of people living in one area, and we needed rules and structure, and we brought structure into kind of everything to make sense of things and have a certain way of being that everybody could agree upon and function by, and society's rules. And we did that, and so, but this whole time we've been living unconsciously, and it's not working. I mean, most people aren't happy. There's wars all over the place. There's preventable problems going on. It's our ego has been running the show for too long, and we're getting to the point now where I think that if we don't shift soon, we're going to kill ourselves off as a species. It's just, we have too much technology. It's just getting too easy. So we have to start living from a different space as part of our evolution of humanity. It's just when does a species evolve? It does when it has to. And I think that that's why we're evolving now, because we have to. We need to develop a different way of being that's more conducive to a loving, happy environment that we can all live in, because the way we're doing it isn't going to last much longer. So I think that's where we are in our human evolution. And I think that that's where this spiritual shift that's coming into being is. So it's, I think it started back in the 60s, breaking up all that structure of organized government, religion, asking why instead of just doing what you're told all the time. And, now it shook up a lot of stuff, and we've had a lot of changes from 1960 to 2019. We want everything to be perfect now, which it's not, so we get frustrated. But the amount of changes that we've had in the last 60 years is profound, especially when we're heading towards a direction of love. And I understand that there's a lot of controversy and contrast in our lives that is showing the bad, but I think that's just so we can see it more clearly, so we can choose love instead of fear is very prominent right now. It's so we can see it, so we can decide against it and choose something other, So I believe that that's where we're going. And I believe that this book is part of the information necessary to help that happen.
Who is this book for? Who did you write this book with? With who in mind did you write this book?
That's tough. I mean, I guess the intellectual answer is for people who are kind of hit a point in their lives where they're just like, there's got to be something more. There's got to be more fulfillment, happiness. There's got to be another way to live that is more fulfilling than this. So that's those people at the cusp of frustration that are looking for another way of being. So I guess that's the intellectual answer. The spiritual answer is I didn't have anybody in mind. I just, some of it was taken from blogs, but whether I'm writing a blog or whether I'm writing this book, it's about or whether I'm talking on a podcast, it's about getting out of my head and letting information flow through, which I think, sounds all woo-woo and spiritual and stuff, like I'm channeling a book, but I believe it's the way that all true creativity comes into this world. I think if you're a sculptor or an artist or a writer or a musician, or I think if you're doing anything creative, the moment inspiration flows through us from the other side. It's in that, so that's what I try to connect to, just disconnect my brain into trying to do something specific for somebody and just let information flow and write. Whatever comes out. And that's how I do everything that I do. So that's a spiritual answer.
And what do you hope that your readers take from the book? What sort of effect do you hope that the book has on the people that read it?
Well, firstly, hope. I wanted to inspire some hope in people that there is another way, and it's down to earth is the title because, well, for a lot of different reasons, it comes at this from many different angles, which I liked. But one of those angles is that, we need something that makes sense. And it's one of the things that I love about spirituality is that it makes sense. And if you look at society's rules and the way we do things, they literally do not make sense. The things that we do on a daily basis that we just accept as it is the way things are, literally make no sense when you look at them. I mean, let's just take school. I mean, come on. And I'm not saying that we should disband all schools. I mean, there are good things that schools do. I'm not saying that schools are bad, but what I'm saying is the idea that all children are supposed to be close to the same level and proficiency in these specific areas, and that, taking a little child that's filled with energy and making them sit at a desk for 6 hours a day is a good idea. It's just not. It's just not. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm not saying that I have a better way yet. And I understand that it's done wonderful things for our society. I understand that there's a lot of good that can come out of that. But I mean, just the core foundational aspect of it, it's just that there's things like that when we were putting systems in place, we just did the best we could with the knowledge that we had, and that's fine. But we're coming into another way of being now where I think we can do things better, and I think we have to, because the way that we've been doing things just doesn't work. So when you look at spirituality, it really makes sense. And I think that's what's so exciting about this book. I think people can read this book, go into, going, well, I'd like to change my life, but I'm not sure if I can, or I think things should be better, but I don't see how that's possible. Or I'm so conditioned by the way society has taught me, I don't know what it looks like to even envision a utopian world. So after reading this book, I'd like to think that I put it so clearly and so matter-of-factly in a way that makes so much sense that it's not a big stretch to go, oh, this is how things are supposed to be. At the end of this book, I want people to be like, of course this is how it's supposed to be. It's literally the only thing that makes sense. Any other way would be absurd, And so that's what I'm hoping, that kind of clicks. And then we've got more people heading in a direction of living in a different way.
What did writing this book teach you about yourself? Is there anything that you learned about Glenn while in the writing process?
Always, there's always something to learn. So I think I got much better at hi Faith. Faith is coming over to visit me. I think I got much better at really letting go even more. And I mean, like I said, that when I do things that have been successful in any way, shape, or form, it's when I get out of my own way. And I think that sometimes when things are material like this, like a book takes effort. Like you actually have to put your fingers on the keyboard and do something and come up with it, and then bring in structure and like all these things that are of the material world. And sometimes it can be difficult to separate spirituality and the material world. So I think it helped me integrate those two, get better at the integration of those two, which is ironic because that's exactly what the book is about, So yeah, I think I learned how to get out of my own way in the material world that much more. And I got a little bit more confident in it because I've done it and I can do it. When I'm talking, it's very natural to me. In other areas, it's not so natural to me. So this allowed me to do it in another area and get more proficient at getting out of my own way and just allowing something to be birthed into this world.
Being a first-time writer, who were some of your influences, who were authors for writing this book?
Nobody. Well, I mean, no, there were plenty of, I think that there were plenty of influences, but maybe not in the way that most people would think that I would take this question. Like I didn't read anybody and be like, oh, I want to write like them. Like there was no aspect of that. I just tried to write like myself because that's the only thing I know how to do. As soon as I tried being somebody other than myself, I'm just horrible at it. So yeah, I just tried to write like me, but there's been tons of influences, that of people that have helped me. And so I think it's some of the obvious ones are my favorite books, so Michael Bernard Beckwith and Eckhart Tolle and Don Miguel Ruiz and Michael Singer. They've been some of my most profound influences spiritually as well as in the written word, how to express this stuff. And then, of course, there's the other aspect of authors that I know. I have a friend, Pat Hastings, that wrote a book about spirituality years ago, Simply a Woman of Faith, which just seeing somebody do it, that's cool. And my friend Paul Martin that I grew up with that lost his leg and became an amazing disabled athlete, wrote One Man's Leg. And it's like, so seeing somebody I grew up with write a book, it's just people that are what you consider a regular person writing a book. It's that much easier to understand that everybody else that wrote a book is a regular person too. So that mentality was helpful too, seeing them do it.
You decided to donate a portion of the proceeds to the book and the crowdfunding campaign to a charitable cause, a nonprofit called Outreach International. Can you tell us a little bit about Outreach International and more specifically why you decided to donate proceeds of the book to this organization and this cause?
Yes. And it's, I wanted to do it because it's just, giving back is foundational. And it's something that I did here and there where I could, when I could, as my business was growing, a lot of times with my time more than money, because that's all I had to give, and then at this stage of my business, it was just like, I really want to make this a foundational part, more obviously, of my business. And this was such a great opportunity to do that. So, so I did want to give back and help others as a structured part of my business, as opposed to a not as structured part of my business, I guess. So when I started looking into charities, of course, I went to Charity Navigator, which is great because it rates the charities in different areas. And I'm like, I'm going for the top. Like, if you can get 100, I want people that are getting 100, for a rating. So, and I didn't even think that was possible, like to actually get 100. And this charity actually has 100 and I think a 98 and a 99 or a 97 out of 3 possible. It's insane. The ratings that they have is phenomenal. So I was like, okay, they're right at the top of anyone. And the other thing I was looking for was a philanthropic mentality. Like, I believe throwing money at a problem doesn't solve it. And as soon as I clicked on this company's profile, it started explaining in their way exactly what I believe. And that's about getting the indigenous people of an area to be a part of the solution of the problem so that it's ongoing. If you just throw money at a problem and don't change the way things are being done, then you just have to throw money at it every year. And the problem never actually gets solved. We just treat the symptom. And I believe in treating the problem so it's no longer a problem. So that's what they have maybe 2 paragraphs to write about themselves, and they dove into that head first. And I'm like, yes, good. Really, I'm on board with that. I also like the part that it was international. My audience is international, and I believe in doing work internationally. It's inclusiveness. I'm not over here in the United States being like, okay, I'm just going to focus here. It's the whole world. We're one human race, and I think we need to love each other and start acting like that. So the fact that it's international is a big part. And then when I went on their website, I also saw that they have I'm not sure if I'm going to use the right terminology, but a benefactor that pays for all their administrative costs. So all the money that comes into this charity goes directly towards the charity and helping other people. They don't have to take a portion of the money coming in to pay for their administrative costs, which is phenomenal. So knowing that 100% of your money is going towards the cause and not being spent on somebody's salary, I think is even more reason,
Absolutely.
So I think there was a couple other little things, but I think that's mainly it.
So just to give you an idea, here's some of the things that they've done in 2018, which is the most recent, obviously, information that we have. 171 field programs locations, 578 community issues addressed, 58,537 beneficiaries. Countries of operation were Bolivia, Cambodia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, India, Nepal, Philippines, Nicaragua, more, so there's a lot of great stuff happening through this organization. So it's a great cause to donate to. That is something that not only are the proceeds from the book going towards them, but also proceeds from the crowdfunding campaign as well, the same portion for the
right.
whole thing.
Yeah, it's going to be 10%, and it's going to be anything that goes towards this book project. it's, and that's what I discussed with them when I got in touch with them. They're like, what were you thinking? And I'm thinking, like, they're like, do you want to do this, or were you thinking about this? And I was like, I'm thinking all of it. Like, if I'm going to say that I'm going to give 10% of the profits of this book, of course there's costs to make this book and all that stuff. So if I'm going to give if I'm telling people I'm going to give 10% of the profits of this book, then I'm going to give 10% of the profits of this book in all ways, So if the crowdfunding is going towards this book, of course, some of that has to go towards the publishing. But if there's any profit in there, which I'm sure there will be, then 10% of that is profit towards this book. So that, so they receive that, So, yeah. So, you can rest assured that if you put any money in any way, shape, or form towards this book, any profit in any way, any profits of that, 10% is going towards this, across the board. Make it simple. I don't want to complicate it and go, well, if it's, no, 10% of the profits going towards this, period. So it's exciting.
It's very exciting. So 2 things to end with. One, just again, the crowdfunding campaign. It's on Indiegogo. There's links in the description of this episode. You can find out all of that information on glennambrose.com. Can you give people a little bit of, a little bit of behind the scenes of some of the perks, like some of the options for what they can get if they contribute to the book launch?
Yeah, I mean, we tried to be real creative with the perks and come up with some fun stuff and some unique ways of interacting that aren't usually available. So, I mean, of course, there's options of getting books, of getting signed books. We've also created a digital book of quotes that is cool because you can print it out and have it as basically like a coffee table book or a reference book, but you can also cut out like the quotes and put them all over your house, in your car, at your work, on your coffee maker, like all over the place to remind you of the mindset that you want to be in. So,
which is fun because that's something that you do yourself.
Right. I do that. And I do that sporadically through different times myself. And I share that with a lot of my clients. So it's a great way to remind yourself in your busy day to stay in the present moment and to be grateful and think the way that you should be thinking. So there's that. There's I've got some workshops. Like you can get together with 5 of your friends or 10 of your friends and just have a workshop with me on Zoom, and just fire questions. I mean, get together with a bunch of friends, a bunch of people that have questions, and just, throw the hardest stuff you've got at me. I mean, that's what I love. So you can do that, and along with that, you get copies of the book. Most likely we're going to have an option to be a guest on the podcast. We're still ironing things out as far as that goes. I mean, most of it's up and put together, but there's digital versions of the book. Obviously, we're figuring out the logistics of the audio aspect of it. There's, and as this stuff comes available, it's going to be up there and on there. So it's cool.
Final thoughts. Why should people go out and get this book?
Why shouldn't they? I mean, it's a great way to donate to a wonderful charity. If you like my message and the way I say it, it's a great way to support that. Obviously, the larger my business gets, the more people I can reach. And that's the goal, is just to keep expanding and expanding and expanding. So we have more people awakening and more people have access to information in a way that clicks with them. And I'm going to be a source of that for some people who I don't know. I have to get out in front of people to find that out. So by buying this book, you're supporting you're supporting the spiritual shift that's going on. So, there's a lot of external good that comes from just the fact of purchasing this book. And then you have the aspect of actually reading it. There should be a lot of good that you're getting out of this book. There should be a lot of concrete ways that you can use, matter-of-fact ways that make sense that you can implement into your life immediately that's going to change your life for the better. And I mean, we put plenty of energy into paying our bills and handling our responsibilities. We have to put some sort of energy towards our own happiness. And, reading this book should be able to give you a lot of those tools that you can use to not only enhance your life, but that's the mushrooming effect, or the trickle down effect, or the rock in the pond effect. It's as you get healthier, the people around you get healthier. As you speak in different ways, other people hear, and then they speak in different ways. And this is how the spiritual shift happens. It's by us individually, each being the change we wish to see, and spreading that to everyone else.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Glenn, and good luck with everything.
And thank you, Ben, for interviewing me.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, that's the interview. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And go check out, mainly this is the crowdfunding aspect of it is October, November of 2019. But that book is going to be out there from this point on. So keep your eyes open. Go get it. You should be able to buy it everywhere, all over the world. I'm doing my best to get it out internationally to all the different channels, so you can purchase it online and get it to you. And of course, through the crowdfunding or through me, there's going to be options to get it if you're having trouble. So it's everywhere. Do your part to be the change, and I'd love to have your support birthing this. So thanks for listening, and we will talk at you soon.
Glenn is available for life coaching sessions. To book an appointment or for more information, go to glennambrose.com, follow him on Facebook and Twitter, or click the link in the description of this episode.